That's the skull?
Yes, exactly. And
How can you tell?
the tooth socket is right there.
Amazing.
You might think the Sahara Desert is just a bunch of sand and sun, right? But it's actually hiding some pretty crazy surprises. Recently, researchers stumbled upon a giant megastructure that turned heads. So, from the incredible Richat structure to mysterious stone circles that had everyone super confused, the Sahara is full of some pretty cool finds. Let's dive into some of the most mysterious discoveries lurking in this vast desert. 1. The Sahara's biggest mystery. One of the most mysterious structures ever found in the Sahara is the Richat structure. Found in the Western Sahara Desert in Mauritania, this giant circle of rings looks like a massive eye from space. It stretches across 31 miles, so it's easy to spot even from high above the planet. Locally, it's known as Richat, which means the eye of the Richat. For years, people have been wondering how this giant formation came to be. Some thought it might be the result of a meteor strike, but scientists now believe it's a natural geological process caused by erosion over millions of years. The different layers of rock weathered away at different speeds, creating the eye-like rings we see today. 2. But how did it even show up there? The structure almost looks like a giant bullseye in the middle of the desert, with its round rings and ridges. This strange shape got people talking, and some wild theories popped up, like the idea that it could be the site of the lost city of Atlantis. At first, some scientists thought the eye might have been formed by a meteor impact, but that wasn't the case. Thanks to modern technology, like satellite images from NASA, researchers figured out what really happened. The Eye of the Sahara is actually a geologic dome. Layers of rock were pushed up from underground, and over millions of years, wind and water slowly wore away those layers, leaving behind the cool, circular pattern we see today. 3. It might be part of our history. The Eye of the Sahara's unique rings are made up of different types of sedimentary rocks, like sandstone and limestone. The outer rings are made of tougher rocks, while the inside rings are softer rocks that have worn away faster over time. These layers aren't just cool to look at. They tell the story of millions of years of Earth's history. Surprisingly, this desert landscape can even help scientists learn about the Sahara's wetter times, when water was more common in the area. Under the structure is something even more interesting, an igneous complex made of rocks formed by magma, like gabbroic rocks. Basically, super hot liquid rock pushed up through the earth and cooled slowly, creating these hard, crystalline rocks. Over millions of years, wind and water erosion have carved out the Eye of the Sahara into the shape we see today. The softer rocks eroded quicker than the tougher outer layers, which is why we see those round ridges. 4. Just like the rock art of Tassili and Adja. Naja, in southeastern Algeria, is home to one of the world's largest collections of prehistoric rock art. Covering over 72,000 square kilometers, this site features more than 15,000 paintings and engravings showing life in the Sahara over thousands of years. The oldest art here dates back around 12,000 years, to a time when the Sahara was actually a lush savanna instead of the desert it is today. Rock art can be divided into different time periods. Early artwork from around 10,000 BCE shows animals like antelopes and crocodiles. Later, the round-head tradition between 7,500 and 5,000 BCE has stylized human figures, often dancing or hunting. Around 4,500 BCE, the Bolivian tradition shows cattle herding, marking a shift towards settled life. After that, the horse and camel periods reflect advances in transportation and life in the desert. 5. Let's not forget about the pyramids of Nubia. The pyramids of Nubia might not be as famous as the ones in Egypt, but they're just as amazing in their own way. These pyramids, found mostly in Sudan, were built by the Kingdom of Kush, which thrived from around 750 BCE to 300 CE. The rulers of Kush, often called the Black Pharaohs, built these structures to show their power and legacy. The kingdom of Kush grew strong after Egypt's 24th dynasty faded. The Kushite kings, starting with Alara, took over Nubia and even adopted some Egyptian customs, like building pyramids for their royal burials. One of the first pyramids was built for King Kashta around 700 BCE at El Kuru. Later, more pyramids popped up in places like Nuri and Meroe, where over 40 pyramids were built. Nubian pyramids are smaller than Egyptian ones, with steeper sides and burial chambers placed beneath, not inside. They were made from local granite and sandstone, often decorated with Egyptian and Nubian designs. These pyramids held treasures like pottery, jewelry, and even mummies, showing how much the Nubians were influenced by Egyptian culture. 6. The Cave of Swimmers are a huge mystery. The Cave of Swimmers is famous for its amazing rock art that's between 6,000 and 9,000 years old. This artwork gives us a glimpse into life a long time ago, when the Sahara was much wetter and had lakes and rivers, making it a friendly spot for humans and animals. In October 1933, a Hungarian explorer named Laszlo Almasi discovered this cave while on an expedition. He wrote about it in his book, The Unknown Sahara, suggesting that the people painted in the cave were really swimming in a lush landscape, not the dry desert we see today. The art shows figures with arms stretched out, looking like they're having fun swimming. There are also images of animals like giraffes and hippos, reminding us of the wildlife that once thrived there. Some people think these pictures might represent daily life, while others believe they could be tied to ancient beliefs about water and rebirth. 7. The mysterious stone circles of the Sahara. The Senegambian stone circles, found along the River Gambia in Senegal and Gambia, are an amazing archaeological site. This area has over 1,000 stone circles, making it the biggest collection of its kind in the world. Spanning about 350 kilometers long and 100 kilometers wide, it was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2006 because of its incredible cultural value. These stone circles were built between the 3rd century BC and the 16th century AD, showing a tradition of impressive stone construction that lasted over 1,500 years. The people who made these structures were skilled craftsmen who used local stones to create these circles, some weighing over 7 tons and standing about 2 meters tall. There are 4 main groups of circles, like Sine Ngayen, which has 52 circles, and Wasu, known for having the tallest stone at about 2.59 meters. The primary reason for building these circles seems to be for burials. Excavations have found mass graves that suggest they were used during epidemics or even for special rituals. 8. Let's move on to the desert Stonehenge. Nabta Playa, found in the southwestern Sahara Desert of Egypt, is a site filled with giant stone structures. It's one of the earliest known places for studying the stars, even older than England's famous Stonehenge by thousands of years. This site was discovered in the early 1970s by an American archaeologist named Fred Wendorf. He and his team were looking for archaeological sites that were at risk because of the Aswan Dam construction. At Nabta Playa, they found a stone circle that dates back to around 4800 BC. This circle aligns perfectly with important stars like Arcturus and Sirius, showing that the people there had a smart grasp of astronomy. They likely used the stone structures to track events in the sky, such as the summer solstice and the rainy season. Excavations have discovered not just the stone structures, but also cattle bones and other tools, hinting that they had complex rituals connected to their sky-watching activities. 9. The Black Desert Glass. Is it real? Libyan desert glass, also known as Great Sand Sea glass, is a natural glass found in the Great Sand Sea of the Eastern Sahara, which includes parts of Western Egypt and Eastern Libya. This glass is famous for its beautiful golden color and has a pretty wild origin story. Scientists believe it was formed about 29 million years ago when a meteorite hit the desert, creating intense heat that melted the sand into glass. While the meteorite impact theory is the most popular explanation, some people have suggested other ideas. For example, some thought volcanic activity might have caused it, but that doesn't quite fit, since Libyan desert glass is mostly pure silica, which doesn't usually come from volcanoes. Others wondered if lightning strikes could melt sand into glass, but those strikes aren't hot enough to create something like Libyan desert glass. This glass is interesting not only for its science, but also for its history. It has been used by people for thousands of years, even showing up in artifacts from ancient Egypt, like a scarab amulet found in King Tut's tomb. 10. How did the skeletons of Wadi alHitan show up there? Wadi alHitan, or Whale Valley, is a place in Egypt known for its incredible fossil finds. Located about 150 kilometers southwest of Cairo, this site became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2005. It's famous for the fossils of early whales, helping scientists understand how whales changed from land animals to creatures that live in water. This area used to be part of the ancient Tethys Sea around 40 to 50 million years ago. The fossils here include over 1,500 marine animals, like the giant Basilosaurus isis, which could grow up to 69 feet long. What's fascinating is that these early whales still had some legs, showing they could move on land too. Wadi alHitan isn't just about whales, it also has fossils of sharks, crocodiles, and sea turtles, but it faces challenges like fossil theft and damage from visitors. 11. The TM Basin mummies. The TM Basin mummies are the discovery of ancient remains found in Xinjiang, China. These mummies date back to around 1800 BCE to the first few centuries CE, with some even older. Their amazing preservation helps us learn about the early people of Central Asia, their lifestyles, and their culture. Since the late 1990s, hundreds of mummies have been found in this dry area where the arid conditions keep them well preserved. Archaeologists have discovered these mummies in elaborate burials, often placed in wooden coffins, showing they had complex burial customs. Alongside the mummies, researchers found textiles and tools revealing rich cultural practices. Genetic studies have shown that these ancient people had unique DNA, different from other groups. They lived mostly by farming and raising animals, and their diet included dairy from cows, sheep, and goats. Some mummies had tall stature, red or blonde hair, and tattoos, sparking curiosity about their connections to other cultures. 12. The tragic story of Lost Army of Cambyses. The Lost Army of Cambyses is a mysterious story about a huge Persian army that supposedly vanished in the Egyptian desert around 524 BC. The story comes from Herodotus, a Greek historian who captured the imagination of many. Cambyses II, the son of Cyrus the Great, was the king of the Persian Empire and had just conquered Egypt. Wanting to show he was a strong ruler, he sent about 50,000 soldiers to the Siwa oasis to confront the oracle of Amun. But as they crossed the western desert, a terrible sandstorm struck. Herodotus described how a fierce wind buried the army in sand, and they were never seen again. Over the years, many explorers tried to find the lost army. In 2009, Italian archaeologists found weapons and tools near Siwa oasis that might be linked to Cambyses' soldiers. While some people believe a sandstorm wiped them out, others think they might have been ambushed by rebels or that the story was exaggerated to cover up a failed campaign. 13. The discovery of Loli footprints. The Loli footprints are a super important find in Loli, Tanzania, where a trail of ancient footprints was discovered that dates back about 3.6 million years. These footprints give us awesome clues about how our early ancestors walked on two legs. Most of these prints are believed to belong to a species called Australopithecus afarensis, which is famous for having a well-known fossil named Lucy. In 1976, a team led by Mary Leakey, a famous paleoanthropologist, stumbled upon these footprints while digging through volcanic ash. At first, they found animal tracks, but then they discovered a remarkable trail that stretched about 88 feet long with around 70 footprints. The volcanic ash helped preserve these prints really well. What's cool is that the footprints show that these early humans walked similarly to us, with their big toes lined up like modern humans. This discovery helps scientists understand how walking upright developed and what life was like for our ancient relatives. 14. Let's not forget about the White Desert statues. The White Desert in Egypt, also known as the White Desert Statues, is an incredible place filled with unique rock formations that look like sculptures. Located near the town of Farafra, this stunning landscape is famous for its bright white chalk formations, shaped by the wind over thousands of years. The chalky rocks are made of calcium carbonate, giving them their beautiful white color. These formations started forming around 70 million years ago when a shallow sea covered the area. Over time, marine deposits turned into soft limestone, which the wind eroded into amazing shapes. Some of the rocks even have names based on what they look like. For example, there's the chicken, which looks like a bird, and the mushroom, a tall rock that resembles a giant mushroom. 15. Nothing's more confusing than the fairy circles. Fairy circles are strange, round patches of bare dirt that pop up in dry places like the Namib Desert in Namibia. Scientists have been scratching their heads over these curious formations for years because they're so unique. Fairy circles can be between 2 to 10 meters wide, and they usually have grass growing around them. The middle is bare, which makes them stand out. Most fairy circles measure about 4 to 8 meters across, but some can be way bigger. Besides Namibia, they've also been spotted in places like Australia. So how do these circles form? One idea is that termites dig and munch away, leaving bare spots. Another thought is that certain plants release chemicals that stop other plants from growing nearby. But the most accepted idea is that grasses fight over water. In dry areas, grass roots reach for moisture, drying out the center and making it hard for new plants to grow there. 16. The discovery of the Mansurasaurus shahini. Mansurasaurus shaheen is a new dinosaur species discovered in Egypt's Sahara Desert. Found by a team from Mansoura University, led by paleontologist Hesham Salam, these fossils are about 80 million years old. Mansurasaurus is a titanosaur, which means it's part of a group of big, long-necked herbivorous dinosaurs. The skeleton they found is one of the most complete from Africa during the late Cretaceous period. Mansurasaurus is about 26 to 33 feet long and weighed around 11,000 pounds, kind of like a giant African bull elephant. This discovery is super important because it helps fill in gaps about what dinosaurs lived in Africa. The bones suggest that this dinosaur might have been more closely related to some dinosaurs in Europe and Asia than to others found in Africa or South America. 17. What even is desert varnish? Desert varnish looks like a shiny, dark coating that can be reddish-brown or even black. This layer is made up of tiny bits of clay, iron oxides, manganese oxides, and even some organic matter, all mixed together. It takes a long time, sometimes thousands of years, for desert varnish to form, and it happens through a few special processes. Tiny living things like bacteria and fungi help create this varnish by changing the manganese and iron in the environment, giving the varnish its colors. Desert varnish usually forms on rock surfaces that don't get a lot of rain or wear from wind. Sometimes, moisture from dew or light rain helps dissolve minerals, which then stick to the rocks when the water dries up. Wind blows clay and dust onto these rocks, which helps build up the varnish. In some places, it can take up to 2,000 years for a layer to form, while in others, like the Mojave Desert, it can happen in less than 50 years. 18. It's not every day you find fragments of biblical scrolls. The discovery of new fragments of biblical scrolls in desert caves, especially the recent finds in the Cave of Horror, is a big deal for archaeology and history. This marks the first major discovery of Dead Sea Scroll fragments in 60 years. In an exciting operation led by the Israel Antiquities Authority, about 80 fragments were uncovered, dating back to around 132-136 AD. This was during the Bar Kokhba revolt against Roman rule. The fragments include Greek translations of texts from the books of Zechariah and Nahum, showing how these important scriptures have changed over time. The digging is part of a project started in 2017 to recover artifacts from desert caves before they could be stolen. The dry desert climate has helped keep these ancient scrolls in great condition, making it easier for researchers to study them. The Dead Sea Scrolls were first discovered between 1946 and 1956 near Qumran, and they include some of the oldest copies of biblical texts. The new fragments are thought to be pieces of a scroll found in 1952 that contained texts from the 12 minor prophets. 19. The ancient Olduvai Gorge tools. Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania helps us understand how humans evolved and made tools. Known as the cradle of mankind, this site has been around for almost 2 million years. It has layers of rock and dirt that tell the story of early humans. The famous Leakey family, especially Lewis and Mary Leakey, started digging here in the 1930s. Their work uncovered many fossils and stone tools, helping us learn more about our ancient ancestors. One of the coolest discoveries at Olduvai is the Oldowan tool industry, which includes some of the oldest stone tools ever found, dating back about 1.7 million years. These simple but clever tools, like choppers and sharp flakes, were used for cutting meat and breaking bones. Early humans were smart about picking the right stones for their tools, showing that they could think ahead and plan how to get things done. 20. The mystery behind the Offington White Horse. He Offington White Horse is an ancient figure carved into a hillside in Oxfordshire, England. It's one of the oldest and most famous chalk drawings in Britain, stretching about 360 feet long. This horse has been around for over 3,000 years, dating back to the Bronze or Iron Age. You can find it on White Horse Hill, right next to the ancient Ridgeway Path. People believe the Offington White Horse might have served different purposes over the years. Some think it was a way for tribes to mark their territory, while others believe it could be a symbol of fertility or a religious icon. The horse has changed shape over time because of weather and wear, but local folks have helped keep it looking good by holding special events to clean it up. One legend says it's connected to St. George and the Dragon, with a nearby hill showing where the dragon's blood fell. Other stories suggest that the horse represents a mother and her foal, coming down at night for a drink. 21. What happened to the Cheops boat? The Kufu ship, also known as the Cheops boat, is an ancient Egyptian boat that was found near the Great Pyramid of Giza in 1954. This ship is one of the oldest and best preserved boats ever discovered, giving us a peek into how the ancient Egyptians built ships and what they believed about life after death. Archaeologist Kamal El-Malach discovered the Kufu ship while cleaning around the Great Pyramid. It had been buried since about 2500 BCE during the reign of Pharaoh Kufu. Made from 1,224 pieces of cedar wood, the ship is around 143 feet long and 19.5 feet wide, making it one of the largest ships from ancient times. The ship shows amazing craftsmanship. It was built using a special technique called shell first, which means they made the outer part of the ship first before adding the inside. Some people think this ship was meant to carry Khufu's body during his funeral, or even to help him travel across the sky with the sun god Ra. 22. What about the Nazca trophy heads? The Nazca trophy heads are a really interesting part of the ancient Nazca culture that lived along the southern coast of Peru between about 100 BC and 800 AD. People used to think these trophy heads were taken from enemies in battle, but new studies show that most of them came from people who actually lived in the Nazca community. Researchers looked at the tooth enamel from these heads and mummies and found no big differences, meaning the heads likely belonged to locals. This changes what we thought about their purpose. It seems the Nazca people collected these heads for several reasons. Some believe they were used in rituals to help crops grow, especially in the tough environment they lived in. There are even pictures on their pottery showing trophy heads connected to farming. Are there any more discoveries in the Sahara that no one has come across just yet? What is the mystery behind all these discoveries found in deserts?